All right, welcome back to the last lecture. I will be around on Thursday, just hanging out, finishing up my stuff. If you want to come in, the computers are here. I will be here. But this is your last official lecture about variety. And then we'll be done. And then you just finish up and have things in by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. The witching hour, and then grades will get out on Monday, I hope. If not Monday, early Tuesday, depends on how long it takes me to culminate all the information. Like I said, today is variety, and it's sort of a simple one. I don't know if this will drone. I don't know if I'll keep it for 30 minutes talking about only variety. I'm sure some of you are like, thank goodness you're not. But it is about variety and how we use variety within design. And you'll see from the presentation that the variety in design can culminate in almost like every one of the principles and elements that we use is adding a little variety, changes, it makes the design more interesting. God, man, do I have to say like variety is a spice of life? But it does make standard design more exciting. And even if you look at like really, really like standard, Swiss design, let's say, like where it's very base, they always add in like a little something. There's always like a little bit like of a red color or something, similar in tone where like they're making it different. Like, oh, maybe all gridded, but then they're adding just a little something different. It can be so simple, but then pulling something different to grab your attention to make you really look at like, what is this design? Here's a great one, like this one. Please just open up this one. Super clean text. We got the text here, and then we are running down the side with a really like kind of like blown out textural image. Well, there's variety, but guess what? It's all still black and white. Like there's nothing, but that was the difference. That's the little bit of variety that makes it like very cool. Here, I love this guy. Let's see if I can find it super quick. I know I'm jumping in with examples already. Hey, I think it's because I wanted to switch my examples. Oh, where is it? There. These, like this, I think it's an ad for tires, in Michelin tires, I believe. But it's just like super, like all this stuff is happening, and then they just put like this yellow bar right at the bottom, like super cool in the way that like, what is my variation? All black and white, and I'm just gonna put this yellow bar to seat everything in the design. There's the variety, like all the photo look the same. We got white, we got black, the photos are similar, and then just this hit of color. Oh, Joseph Mueller Brockman, such great work by him. So that's what we're talking about. And then we're talking about then the design. How can you add to your design to make it more exciting by adding just a little bit of variety? And when you add variety, we're not just adding like nonsensical stuff. It needs to fit. There needs to be a reason why you're adding it, and not just because, quote unquote, it's cool or I thought about it. Does it still work as we talked last week? Is it still make the design harmonious and unified with the variety? And over here, they all still work that way. All these examples still work that way. It just adds another layer of interest to anything that you're designing. And we, like I said, I think it's kind of easy because we're just going to go through and name all the design elements and principles kind of like within this. A diversity of elements. Just having that one change or something a little bit different makes everything more intriguing to look at. Oh, I really want to look at that design. There's something about it. There's that one piece that, really draws my eye. That is what we're talking about when we talk about the diversity elements within the design. And when people speak about that, when you as a designer speak about that, oh, I love that piece and love how this, this one area, why is it? It's probably because there's a varietal difference in that area that really brings us to looking at that. Contrast. We went over contrast, Contrast is a change in variety. We make it super bold. Contrast is like the biggest, boldest change you can have. Because kind of like in layman's terms, contrast is like the difference between black and white. Even though they're complementary, like yellow and purple. Like we're going opposites here. What's the furthest thing that I can throw in to into the design that is contrasty? And then we say it when we talk about it. We will say the word contrast. So that's a great one. Adding in some textural variety is a great way to do it, and it can be very subtle and interesting. I just talked about that in the Giselle piece with the ballerina, with the photograph that was grainy. Grainy photographs make that cool look and feel. I'll tell a little photography lesson for everybody. When we work in Photoshop, right, and we go down the pixels, that is that's what we call like the modern day difference. I'm just going to open up this thing real quick. And as I zoom in, we get pixels. And those are the pixels that we're looking at. So like modern day in what we would call that distortion or blurriness or textural that you would get from a photograph, you can't get digitally because digital goes down to pixels. But back in the day, when you took an actual film camera and used literal film, you are looking at microscopic grains of silver that either are black or white, and depending on the density of them, but they're a random pattern of grains. And that's why when you look at like old photos, and when people are like, oh, it's grainy in texture, it's this or that can't be produced anymore. Like that graininess is something that was in effect due to the process of the photography of the photo. Now that we have digital photos, that graininess cannot come through. It's kind of weird. So it's a little sidebar in the old texture that like you now have to fake it digitally because you can't zoom in onto a digital photograph and see the same grainy makeup that you would normally. And I think it's like one of the first things like Photoshop had. It's like one of their things you could turn on and make it grainy. Take out grainy, add grain. Yeah, one of them was like always like, how do you remove the grain? And then now it's like, how do you add it to make it look cool and old? But back, 20 years ago when I was working, we'd get photos that would be scanned and we'd have to send them through filters to get rid of the grain. So, all right, moving on. That's kind of like texture, talking about color variety, adding in that just a little extra hit of color somewhere. The hit of color may really change the way that you see the entire piece. I'm working on I'm not working on the blazer piece from a couple weeks ago where it was this light blue background and the girl was standing there and then it had the orange circle on her. There's color variety right there. We just need a little bit. But it makes it so much more interesting to check out. Continuing on, shape variety. I have an example over here where we're going to talk about organic versus inorganic and that juxtaposition there. And we had, shape variety, and is it here? Yeah, pattern and repetition. Way back when, I think it was in the texture one where we had that pattern on the moose that created like that could be a shape variety as well. Typography variation, generally done with the titles. You don't vary every word in it unless you're making a ransom note and you don't want people to know your handwriting. But generally, the typographic variation comes in one form and one form only, and that's like the title or a word that is very important. And then everything else is standard, but they want that word to stand out. And so you do it in a completely different style. And you only do it that once on the design piece in order to make it stand out, make it interesting, and make people look at it and be like, that is different, and I'm going to focus on that. Spacing and proximity. Varying the space between elements and controlling their proximity can add visual interest. Yeah. How tight are some things in one area as compared to loose in other areas? You know, how does that make people feel? We saw those posters where all the people in movement, and we had all the people, and the more people there were in one area and the less there were in another area, changed it. That was spacing and proximity, but that's the variation in that pattern, which isn't really a pattern, but it's a variation. I'm varying it from very few to a lot in one area, and it draws the eye. That spacing and proximity of things draws the eye and gets us to look at different areas. I've talked about pattern already, the pattern variation, the anomaly. There we go. I got a pattern, and instead of the full pattern, look at the teardrop shapes that we were going after a couple weeks ago. Oh, I opened the wrong side. Hold on. This, you know, when we were doing with these, you know, and we had that whole setup of these, and then they were like matching. And then the very last one was a circle. You know, that pattern diversity and or the anomaly that makes it interesting. Like, oh, I was getting all used to it, and then this one thing changed. Like, how interesting. I love to see that. That's cool. Scale variation. We've talked about scale and reverse scale, which I did that to have fun, but that's like another way to, capture the attention of people. Like, oh, wait, why is that? Why is the mouse bigger than the elephant? Huh? Like, that's so crazy. That's so weird. Why is it that way? And then I'm looking at it longer. All sorts of stuff like that with the variation on scaling, the whole, grandiose. You got the landscape, that technique one where then the people were just like this big. And then you had mountains, and then a sky, and then there was a moon. But like that scale variation of just the people being so small and everything else being so big made it far more interesting to look at. Rhythm repetition. I'll stick that one with pattern. We could do the rhythm repetition. We had a couple weeks ago with pattern. We had the pattern of the 2 pages in the book, in which, I think there was like an angle, and that there was like the photo, and then it had a little information here, and all the text was like on an angle. But what did they do on each page for the repetition to change it for variety is like this area and something else was like blue in one, then it was magenta, then it was yellow. And so the layouts were exactly the same, except for the one color change. That repetition changed in those ones. So good to use overall. And it encompasses everything we've been talking about so far. We look at this piece right here. They're all different elements. Every one is different. We have fruits. We have mushed fruits. We have a bread. We have a frosting. This is an indication of this frosting right here, of course, which is then in 2 different forms or 3 different forms. We have it being made, squirted out, and in the piping bag, like 3 varietals of the same. Then we have the flowers, so these unedible things next to edible things. We have pickled, unpickled, raw, the utensil, like everything here, even though 90% is food-based, they're all different. But what makes them the same? They're all food-based, but they're all slightly different and done in here for a different reason, to create a variety. And know, like, the evening with design is going to be about variety. Like, this is what makes it interesting. This is an evening with designer Louis Feely. I don't know. I don't know their work offhand, but if it was just like, a big poster and it just said that in a nice, Swiss design, it wouldn't be as interesting. We wouldn't be capturing people's attention. So they wanted this to do it. I'm sure the good enough to eat was part of the whole presentation. Here's a good one. Or as I move that over to get it more centered, is super varietal difference here with the crazy drawing up here. We have a crazy drawing. We have a shadow, like the white shadow on the drawing. It's all like everything's outlined. It is a cartoon. And we look at this, and then what's down here? Then we bring it down. Like, calm down now. Got you all worked up. You're looking at this. You're like looking in and out and all the things, and where's it going? And like, what an awesome, I'm gonna call this a doodle. And then down here, so perfectly set up. There's one font in several different ways, all caps, which is kind of bold compared to this, which is all like silly and crazy. All caps is usually very structured. We try not to have, designers always do all caps. It's kind of, you don't know what to read next, but they separated it out though. And then to add more variety, the same font is super big and bold, less bold, but still bold, bigger, not as bold, and least bold. So with the variety of just the text here, I go from here to here to here to here to here. And that's in the order of the information. What's happening? Rustic Music Arts Festival. When's it happening? September. Who's it featuring? Oh, Hyman Multimedia Presents, whatever. Oh, I can get tickets over here. And this is just because it's sponsored. I'm sure they asked for that to be bigger. Top-notch design and art direction for today's iconic brands. And then you look at it and you're like, wow, wait, what? This is weird, crazy. Why? It's like a painting. And you're talking about top-notch design, but then you have this super painting behind it. Well, that has to do with the handcrafted interfaces. It's the juxtaposition. It's the contrast between two things. We think of maybe top-notch design and we think like very clean and very clear, but yet they're throwing in this weird painterly abstract thing in the background. It's a contrast. It makes it interesting. And it's signifying here in this handcrafted interfaces setup. These geometric, transparent shapes hinting at some more form that's really not there against this very soft and sensual, like grainy imaged background. Like that grainy image that grain is put in by Photoshop, after the fact. I think it's just like add grain and then you Gaussian blur it. But then it's so soft and like, oh yeah. And then it's got, you put this geometric stuff on top. Complete contrast. But it makes it far more interesting. If this was just a piece and it was just like you took off all the geometric stuff and it was just some girl laying on the couch looking all sad and whatever, modelly, it wouldn't be the same. But then they added this, which really adds something quite interesting to the whole look and feel of that poster. Just transforms it completely. Yeah, I think I'd hate it otherwise, personally. And then here. This is the second yard sale one I've done. Very funny. But we have contrast. And it's a little bit like the other yard sale sign. What's the biggest contrast here is yard sale. It's bold sans serif font. And everything else is like this vintage holds back to this. You know, we have variety. We got the yellow, but the yellow is indicating where we need to go. We got images, and they're very consistent. They have the black and white phone, the black and white tape, the black and white box. The phone has some cream in it. They put a little of this cardboard in there. Not sure why. I think it matches the wooden floor. So we have three things. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We kind of have the yellow, and then we have type. It's all, but this right there, yard sale, the most important thing on this is the most different element on the design as a whole. So that is variety for variety's sake. Now, you know what to do in finding me some variety in research, a book cover, movie poster, and album cover. You know, like this is like, you just go crazy on that. Within the project, 6 compositions, 2 for color, 2 for shape, and 2 for typography to define variety in the design. I like what I see. Keep it up. You know what to do. Experimentation is always the best. And you are at the point of doing this for 16 weeks that I trust your experimentation. Try some new things. It's always, these are the opportunity to do something new. You know, that's why it's the other reason why we have these. It's not like, you know, do it just to do it. It gives you so many chances to practice and try new things. And the more you practice, the better you get at it, just like learning an instrument, just like anything you want to learn. There is a saying for just anything. In order to do something and remember it and do it again, you must do it at least 10 times. So, you know, practicing graphic design each week as much as you do. That's why we do it. Helps you remember how to do things. Now, I've gone through and I've made comments. I see somebody's posted 2 minutes ago while I was lecturing. It's all good. But for the final, you are to place your pamphlet into a real world environment on a desk or coffee table. So again, this is a little bit more beyond just the normal practice. And you may be saying to yourself, well, Joel, how do I do that? Here's how you do it. Google it. Pamphlet mock-up free. And you could take anything like this and put your piece in, you know, put it in your piece. Like that one, you know, and just you Photoshop in. I think it was white. It originally comes in white, so you can just overlay. Play around, figure it out. Make a nice little so people can see all the sides of it. Here's another one. You can just like get the image and place it in, you know, one half, other half, front and back. So it looks like you actually created a little brochure. Should look great when you're done. So, yeah, that is it for this course for the most part. Like I said, I will be around on Thursday. And I'll be around on Thursday. If you want to come in, work on stuff, anything else you got to get knocked out, I'll be moving around a little bit. I have one lecture in the morning, but I'll be in here, maybe in a different room, here, there, other, you know, just kind of look for me. I'm around. I won't be leaving. And then if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, I will be on Blackboard. I will be checking discussions and grading and all that kind of fun stuff before the end of the semester. So. Cool. I will talk to you all later. Thank you very much. See you on the discussion boards.